we have one of Scotland's finest songwriters. We have a singer who I've admired for years, since his days in his original band Back of the Moon, and up to Queen Anne's Revenge, Bar Mountaineers, everything like that. We have the one. Yes.
So you know, Davey, I knew him when he was in Short Breaks.
Oh, he's getting flashbacks.
Yeah.
Let's bring him on and let's have that conversation.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Finlay Napier.
Hello.
Welcome.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
No, it's a pleasure.
How you doing?
Shall we start?
Let me just brush this roast chicken out of my beard.
Yeah. It's not appealing.
No, I just saw it there and I was like, Anyway.
Yeah.
Do you want to start off with the Short Breaks, Peter?
The Short Breaks. Many years ago, many Back of the Moons.
30 years ago?
At least, yeah. 33, 34 maybe even. Is it?
I would think I'm not very good at maths, but if I'm 42 and I was 12.
There you go, 30 years ago.
Quite easy one, Peter, come on.
And Speyside decided to have a Spey Fish.
That's right.
It was the very first Spey Fish, and I got asked to tutor at it.
Yeah.
And there was this very young fellow who came along to have a wee crash course in accordion for a week. And did you do it?
I didn't do accordion. I did.
Oh, you
maybe I did.
I can't remember.
My favourite memory of that is I can remember sitting in the audience while the accordion class was doing their bit on stage, and this guy had the accordion, and he was going like, and you just kind of leaning over like.
Took the strap off.
It's absolutely brilliant. It's one of the honestly, I don't have many memories from that fish, but that is pretty much it.
But I'm trying to remember what happened. You were at the fish, but I don't think Hamish got, did he?
He was too young, yeah.
Yeah.
That year, he was too young, yeah.
He got sent back in somewhere else.
He had to come and sort of look in through the windows.
And before David takes over, but just right back in history here, I used to play every Monday night, Davey, in the Carbridge Hotel at a Scottish show. And
wow.
Finlay's mum was the harp player singer.
Really?
That was, she used to be there every Monday night, and we done a wee show. So,
that's where she was.
Mario Louise Napier. I'm right.
Right.
So that's how I knew all these guys, and that's how I knew them in short trousers.
Yeah, wow.
And that's the story you're sticking to.
That's it. No more.
So Finlay, tell us about how you got started with the music. What was your first instrument?
Well, I studied with Peter Wood for a week, and I've really just not looked back since. Joking aside, actually, that week and a couple of other incidents pretty much ruined my life. And here I am in a warehouse in Oxford, somewhere off the Cowley Road with fireworks going over my head, all because I went to that fish. That fish was kind of, my mum was quite upset because I didn't appear to be sort of into music in any way. They tried piano lessons and stuff, and it had been a total disaster. And then the mum started this fish, and I think I just liked that more relaxed style of teaching. And I think, I just preferred folk music to classical music. Like, quite clearly, I just had a thing for it. It just worked for me. And I didn't start singing for a couple of years. I'd sung like a bit when I was a kid. They put me into the Canusi music festival, where you sing with your hands like this. My love is like a red, red rose. That kind of, thing, where it's like, you know, proper singing kind of thing.
Did you have to wear a wee kilt and all that when you done that?
No, thankfully I didn't. But I remember I had to wear my school uniform. The first one, actually, I was unable to perform because I got so nervous I was sick in the car park. So does
that still happen sometimes?
No, actually, no. I still get nervous. I don't hurl.
That's good, especially when you've got a beard. It's never attractive.
I know it's not like picking the out. Oh, what a thought! No, but yeah, that really worked. That face thing, it just clicked for me, and it was Ian Toots McDonald, who I think was originally from Lewis. He was the guitar teacher, and he kind of taught me for 3 chords.
Right.
And then I went back for a couple of years, and I don't know, around about that time, the face movement, like they realized that they were losing the older kids. So they did this thing where they got a whole bunch of us together in Fort William from all the different faces. So at that weekend, I met, I think Rachel Walker was there. I shared a room with a wee accordion player from Tyree called Angus McPhail.
The
first time I met Angus, and I think Andrew Stevenson was there as well. And I think he was I have this. This might be total rubbish, so apologies. But I have this memory that he had maybe been working as a ghillie on like a sort of junior ghillie on an estate. And when he turned up one of the days, he was actually in the full estate workers, +4 tweed uniform, with his
the gamekeeper outfit.
The full gamekeeper rig, because it's like he's come to play to do this space thing, and then he's got to go back and work on the estate tonight, kind of thing.
Well, that's very authentic.
Yeah, it was mad. I can't remember who else was on it. I made really good pals with a guy called Martin McDonald. We really clicked, and he kind of was like, I think you should sing, and I'm going to play guitar. We got put into duos. There's Jim Hunter, Ishbel McCaskill, and Dougie Pincock that were running this as the tutors, and that was kind of the moment I would say that I went, oh, this is the thing for me. That was where I got the confidence to sing in front of people. And then a mate of mine from school, Graham Anderson, was there as well, and Graham called me up about a week after and said, we are starting a band and you are the lead singer. And that was it. Yeah, and I've not really done anything else except that I did a good amount of grouse beating in my time. But and I've washed a lot of dishes. But apart from that, I've not done anything else but music.
It's hard going the old grouse beating, when you're standing at the bottom of that exceptionally steep hill looking up the way.
Yeah, and I mean, I imagine that you probably did that beat outside the Car Bridge where they drop you off at Forrigan. The road up to Inverness, the A9. There's that bit with all the cliffs on your right-hand side as you're driving north. Just before that was a hill, and that was very often, 8:30 in the morning. Right, lads, here we go.
I mean, I was brought up in the Borders, but my father was a gamekeeper, and. But it was pheasant shooting, and that wasn't half as nasty as the grouse for the beaters.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, I mean, listeners, please understand that there will never be a day, or highly unlikely there will ever be a day in my life where I stand on a grouse butt and fire a gun. Do you know what I mean? I've no real interest in that. However, if somebody said to me, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you fancy going and doing a couple hours on the hill grouse beating? I'd be there like a shot.
Yeah.
I saw bits of Strathspey that nobody else has seen, apart from the gatekeepers. Absolutely beautiful. Walked in like horrific weather, but mostly pretty okay. August weather all over those hills, and it was the best. I loved it.
Awesome.
I know a lot of people hate it, but there was something quite good about being like waist deep in heather, like slogging along with a bag on a stick, going.
Yeah,
I never got shot, but some of the other keepers got shot and stuff.
And then sitting in the back of a van with a wet dog trying to steal your sandwich.
I remember, like eight beaters and 6 Labradors who were fighting and cuddling sometimes. I remember one time there was 2 that were cuddling in the back, and the keeper went back with a stick to break them apart and hit one of the beaters in the face. Flicked the glass. And we were in the back of the van going, what's going to happen? I'm so sorry. I meant to talk. There's like 8 of us in the back of a Land Rover, and you're waving a stick around trying to hit the Yeah. Strangely, there is actually a song on my new album connected to that, because we used to go to the Ben Moore after beating, because we got paid a fortune, 20 quid and a can of Tennent's. And that 20 quid, some of that got spent in the Ben Moore at the karaoke, and I've got a song called American Promise, American Lies about a night on the town after the grouse beating. So,
talking of songs, so we're going to have a song here, David.
We're going to have a song, yeah. We've got 1800 and Froze to Death, Finlay. So tell us a bit about that.
Oh, right. So the reason I'm in Oxford right now is that I'm on tour with Megan Henwood, and we started a duo a few years ago called the Story Song Scientists, with the idea that we would write a whole bunch of songs about science. We didn't write that many songs about science. We've only got a few, but it's like the science of the story song. Is that too tenuous?
Okay.
Or lots of story songs, some songs about science, but we study the science of the story song. This is one of the new ones from the new EP, which is called Quantum Lyrics. And the idea behind this is amazing. There was a volcano in 1815 in Indonesia called Tambora. And so Mount St. Helens was when it went off, it released 0.25 miles of cubic ejecta into the atmosphere, right? I can't remember. Krakatoa, you heard of Krakatoa? 4.25 cubic miles of ejecta, that's what comes out of a volcano. I'm not making it up. It's real science, because I did a gig today, so I've got this off the top of my head. Tambora was 19. So it is the largest recorded volcano going off. It turned the sky red for a year. There was so much dust in the atmosphere. So those paintings from like 1815 and 1816, like Turner and Constable, those kind of paintings, the sky isn't red in the background because they're impressionists. That was actually the colour of the sky. The sky went blood red. Not enough light was getting through the atmosphere, so the crops failed, and the peasants began revolting. It caused the start of the Communist Party. Mary Shelley got stuck in an alpine lodge for a year. She got bored and she wrote Frankenstein because of this. Just so many things. There's loads of riots. In fact, the UK nearly had a revolution because of this volcano that went off. So it's kind of like we've been saying, it's like an example, a very violent example of the butterfly effect. This thing goes off in Indonesia, but the entire world and the history of the world has changed because of it. So yeah, long introductions.
So here we go. 1800 and Froze to Death. Let's hear it.
Sleeping giants sprung awake, smothering the earth in ash. The cloud that changed the course of fate, merciless the aftermath, contaminated atmosphere. Jack Frost threw a tantrum, churned up every icy tear. Overstayed his welcome when that fiery mountain reared her head, and the sky turned dark and the sun burned red. 1800 and froze to death, the year without a summer. Withered winds and bitter sleet, crop fields well defeated, livestock full and worn out weak, the hungry north retreated. Blood-shaped snowflakes spiral fall to land on stiff eyelashes. This weather punished one and all, dust to dust, ashes to ashes. When that fiery mountain reared her head and the sky turned dark and the sun burned red, 1800 and froze to death, the year without the summer. Death would come as sweet relief for millions in distress. In Little Port and on Spa Fields, the rioting dispossessed. Hold up in Byron's Alpine Lodge, a cellar full of wine. From Shelley's boredom rose a plot, she conjured Frankenstein. 1800 and froze to death. Old Tambora rose and said, you don't know what's hit you yet. The year without a summer. When that fiery mountain reared her head, and the sky turned dark and the sun burned red. 1800 and froze to death. The year without a summer. 1800 and froze to death. Old Tambora rose and said, you don't know what's hit you yet. The year without a summer. When that fiery mountain reared her head and the sky turned dark and the sun burned red. 1800 and froze to death. Without a summer.
Wow. Whoa, yeah, but really, when you, I was a terrible musician for years that didn't listen to the words and songs. I used to batter away there and just play and think songs and accompany them and all that. And then one day said, wait a minute, I'm going to have to start listening to this. And then you learn so much. But given an introduction like you did there, actually adds totally to the clarity of the whole thing and catches the imagination to see what it's all about.
That's kind of been part of this project, is the fact that we want to make it into a show. So we've got lab coats that we wear, and we've got Megan's partner printed these big A1 foam boards. So we've got the volcanoes in different sizes. So you can see, so to hold up for the audience. So we're kind of doing it as if we're an episode of Tomorrow's World or a Open University presentation from the 70s. I've got a really nice set of brown corduroy flares and a pink shirt. So we're actually trying to make this into a proper show, as opposed to just a gig where there is an element of like talking about it and a bit of comedy and stuff like that around about it, because we put a lot of research into the songs, and not everything goes into the song itself. Otherwise, the song will be really boring. So we kind of make the song stand on its own, and then we've got the introduction as well, and then sometimes even that's too long. So we've got a little magazine thing that we sell the gig as well. Like
what Alistair says there. Alistair's recommending you for COP26.
We're there. We're there on the 12th, November the 12th. We're playing in the Glad Cafe.
Right.
I mean, strangely, actually, it's been played on the radio a couple of times, and people have. It wasn't us that made the COP26 connection. It was actually somebody else listening to it went, "Oh wow, that kind of sounds like it could be about that," and then we were like, "Yeah, I guess it's a great example," because that was obviously a natural disaster, but we probably as humans are, create more damage than nature does.
Yeah.
So
it's really lovely to see. Actually, so many people, so many comments coming in here, and people relating it to that. But folks, keep your comments coming, and it's wonderful it gives us something to bounce off, and it's really nice to see that there's folk out there participating and joining in with us. That's what it's all about.
I'm seeing that person there saying year with the year without the summer is well known in the history of New England. That's kind of where we'd heard it was the American thing of calling it 1800 and froze to death, or the year without the summer. But that year without the summer was across the entire northern hemisphere. I don't know what happened south, but
it's probably fine.
It was probably fine. I have this idea that it probably wasn't. It's just that no one was writing it down.
Yeah, nobody wrote a song about it.
Well, do you know what's funny is that one of the things that we've been discovering, like as we've followed these stories, like for example, we've got this song that we wrote for about Georg Cantor, who discovered infinity, and everyone's like, this is Georg Cantor. He discovered infinity. No. He was the first white person to discover infinity, and it's just like the Middle East. They had infinity down like 3,000 years ago, maybe earlier. But no. It's like a common thing that you stumble across when you start rooting about in science and history.
Yeah.
If you're not white, it's not there.
Exactly.
When you started off in the band at school, you went on to the RSAMD, didn't you?
Yeah, I was really lucky. I was in the first year, it was really exciting. And I think in my head it was going to be a phase that lasted 3 years. It wasn't quite like that, because it was an academic establishment, And it was great. Like I'll be honest with you, I really struggled with it at first. I think as well because I think maybe my musical taste was changing, and also I don't think I was really ready to go to university at that point. I think I was one of those people that really needed a year out, and didn't have one, so I was not ready for the big city. You
needed another year on the hill grouse beating.
I think I did, or like working. Just I needed anyway. But it was great, and obviously I met my wife Gillian Frame there, so I will, I was very, very pleased about that, and remain very pleased about that.
That's good. That's good.
That was what's the best thing that happened at the RSAMD? I met Gillian. But yeah,
you're selling the course.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to meet your life partner, that is the place to go, based on my experience. But yeah, it was brilliant, and as once the other year groups came through, because I think the first year was quite intense, because I think we felt a real responsibility that all 10 of us had to get on, but and had to spend all our time together and had to do stuff together. And then as more people came in, we kind of naturally fell into a bit more of a groove, like a normal university course was. But it was mad. There was 10 of us, and I have to say there was a real feeling at that time as well of an us versus them. We'd heard that through gossip and stuff around the building, that the classical department were very unhappy that 10 chairs had been taken out of the orchestra and given to these folkies, and who were they? And the interesting thing was, after we left, they did a survey, and it's something ridiculous like year one, 100% of the people got a paid job in music.
Right.
I mean, and that is definitely not the statistics from the orchestra. So many of us were on, and even with year two and people dropping out, and year 3, and like, because things like that happen. I think statistically, the amount of people that remained in the music industry in some form, whether it be a music teacher or a performing musician, it was incredible. So really, the course was, I think, was a great benefit to the RCS, because we were very, very, although we were perhaps not, the technically gifted classical players, what we were was incredible all-terrain vehicles where we could stand in front of an audience, play songs, teach people, we could do a whole lot of different things. So like the course at that point was very much about creating a musician that could fulfill a number of different roles in a community. Like we could do a little bit of PA, we could put on a Ceilidh, that kind of thing, Like I'm not a great Ceilidh band player, but I could do it. Like if you said, will you come and play a bit of guitar, I could do that. So it created a really good set of all rounders. And actually, I think that was the intention of Joe Miller that set it up, was to do this, have these all-terrain vehicles, the only thing that I can think of in my head, but these community musicians rather than performing musicians. Unfortunately, in my head, I just wanted to be a performing musician at that time. And the joke is, and I say this to Jo nearly every time I see her, the joke is that immediately that's what I went into, was teaching guitar, teaching group music making, teaching ukulele, teaching whatever, and that and performing were the two things that kept me afloat and keep me afloat to this day. So,
So what came first? Was it Gillian winning the Young Trad Musician, or was it Back of the Moon?
Back of the Moon came first.
Mm-hmm.
I was in another band that folded, and they invited me in. So Hamish Napier, my brother, Simon McKerroll, and Gillian had this band called Frame McKerroll Napier that had entered the BBC Radio 2 Young Folk Award and had got through to the final. So I actually went to the final, but I wasn't allowed to play because I'm in the semi-final, because they sort of saw it as getting a ringer in, It's which I'm like, yeah, they were totally right. And then Gillian went on to win the Young Traditional Musician of the Year. By which point we had a decent set, and we were out doing folk clubs, and we took a pretty proactive approach to getting folk club gigs.
Yeah,
like I remember cold calling every single folk club in Scotland, and then sending them out a recording that we'd made, and trying to get gigs, and that's kind of how we started out, and when Gillian won, we got fantastic opportunities to go out to Canada and stuff, which we did, and that really was us. We were off then with Back of the Moon. So that was kind of like 99 till 2006. I think the 21st of November 2006 at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. was our last gig. So there you go.
And then from that, you moved on to be the Ballroom Mountaineers.
Yeah, so that was a funny thing. So Nick Turner had recorded, up at Watercolour, had recorded 2 of our CDs.
Finlay. Look at that comment. Look at that comment.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Don.
There you go.
You're on my team, Don. He's in the post. What was I going to say? What was I saying? Yeah, and Nick had said to me, I'd done quite a lot of writing. Jim Hunter had started my songwriting off by saying, "Have you written any songs?" And I was like, "No." And then the next time I saw him, he was like, "Have you written any songs?" And I was like, "I've written 4." It's like, "Oh, right, okay." And I still don't really understand what happened there. Like, what possessed this 15 or 16-year-old just to start writing. And I look at them and they're embarrassing, and I wouldn't really share them with you. But in actual fact, you know, like looking at them with the kind of the eye I have now, it's like a couple of them are not bad. Like not bad at all.
Well, that's it. Learning curve, Learning curve, and you could probably.
Weird, but I don't understand how I was able to. I don't really get how I was able to produce that. Yeah. It must have just been what I was listening to at the time, but it just happened and it came out and it was kind of unguided. And I remember, I think Jim was pretty surprised. And I look at them now and like, if a kid brought that to me, I would be like, oh wow, this is something me encouraged. And God bless him, that's what Jim did, you know. But my writing, because I was with Back of the Moon, the writing had really died off and I didn't know what to write about. But Nick Turner said, come up to Watercolour Music and let's sit down and try and co-write. Have you ever co-written before? And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't fancy that. You know, songwriting is one man on his own with his sadness and his feelings in the room and, you know, talking about his feelings and, you know, and what a load of guff. I just had all these ideas that were just... Anyway, Nick and I sat down and on the first night we wrote 5 songs, one of which was George, which is on the first Barrow Mountaineers album, and another Out All Night. We wrote that as well on the first session. I mean, just ridiculous. We were both ready, and we were a really, really great writing team. Yeah. And after Back of the Moon finished, we carried on, but we decided that the Barrow Mountaineers was probably the best way to go for writing those songs. Playing those songs live.
Have we got a track, David?
We do, yeah.
We're
lucky to have Ewan Robertson on earlier in the year, and he sang one of your songs.
Oh, really?
He sang One for the Ditch.
Oh, great.
So I managed to find a really old video of the Barrow Mountaineers doing One for the Ditch.
Oh, this is at Watercolour Studios, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's the one I think it is, yeah.
Do you want to tell us about the song?
One for the Ditch is the New Year anthem. And funnily enough, Nick and I used to put an awful lot of time and effort into songs. Loads of research, and we'd have lots of hidden things and lots of clever stuff. And that was one of those songs. It's probably one of the most popular ones we wrote. We knocked it out in about 10 minutes. Yeah. But it was I was listening to a lot of George Jones at the time, and Nick was quite into his country music. He was working with the Lush Rollers. And that song just came really fast. And it was a friend of mine in Rogert in Sutherland, Mackie Ross, who said, One for the Ditch. That's a good title for a song. And people say, oh, that'd be a good title for a song all the time. And usually it's like, really? How are you going to write a song about that? And he was like, One for the Ditch. That's a good title for a song. And I was like, oh, yes, that is an absolutely, like, that's perfect, you know? So... That's how it came about. The idea is like Rogert and Sutherland and Carbridge, New Year's and overindulgence and fear and self-loathing in the Highlands.
Perfect. Let's a listen.
All right. Have you got another microphone, Nick? All right. 1, 2, 3.
Whiskey with water's good for the soul. Without a beat fire, it's no use at all. Whiskey with ginger goes down a treat, but if you're killing a memory, it's best taken neat. 1 for ignition, 2 for the road, 3 for the ditch, walk the rest the way home. Oh, 1 for ignition, 2 for the road, 3 for the ditch, walk the rest the way home.
drips the deepest in the New Year's snow. You're lying in the ditch, it's time to get up and go. Look to the stars, wouldn't it be fine to know with some kind of certainty one of them was mine. One for ignition, two for the road, three for the ditch, walk the rest the way home. Oh, one for ignition, two for the road, three for the ditch, walk the rest the way home. There's fireworks and dancing off the coast rounds. Everyone's lined up parties all over town, and just when it gets to wild mounting time, the couples stream off in disorderly lines. Whiskey with water is good for the soul. Without a peat fire, it's no use at all. Whiskey with ginger goes down a treat. You're counting a memory, it's best take the lead. One for ignition, two for the road, three for the ditch, walk the rest the way home. Oh, one for ignition, two for the road, three for the ditch, walk the rest the way home. One for the ditch, walk the rest the way home.
Fantastic writing. Fantastic
Got
writing.
the capo on the wrong fret there.
Oh.
I'm watching that going, what are you doing, man? Put the capo on the wrong place. It's on the third fret, man. It's on the fifth. The capo's on the fifth fret for that song.
I must admit, I didn't actually notice that.
I can't believe you didn't notice.
No,
I thought you
I'm giving up. I'm giving up this show. I've just proved to myself that the audience that I know nothing.
Yeah, no, it's just like, I mean,
Well enough.
some people I speak to have done a bit of research.
On that note, so you've done. You went with Nick and you did a thing called Queen Anne's Revenge. You did 2 albums there, which was
This is me. This is now me.
the Queen Anne's Revenge stuff was essentially reimagining your songs that you'd already kind of played with Barrow Mountaineers, isn't it? It was a lot of it was kind of heavier rock. Or the other way around, was it?
It was the other way around, yeah.
Oh,
Queen
okay.
Anne's Revenge was the first thing, and it overlaps.
And then you kind of you
and
loosened up
then
and
we
you
realised that we weren't going to be able to get that live. And we did, I did attempt it like once or twice,
yeah.
but it was just too much, and it wasn't going to be affordable. And then we had this idea of like really kind of compressing the sound down.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Paul Jennings in that video. That's Scott Mackay, who plays with Roddy Hart playing drums, and Douglas Miller on keys, and Gillian Frame playing fiddle. So Douglas, Gillian, Paul Jennings, and I had a setup, and Jennings had been experimenting with a cajon and a little kind of really portable small drum setup, which meant that we were able to take it on tour pretty easily. So we did a few things in Europe. We did a tour in America, and we could kind of fit in a wee car, like no bother. And of course,
Paul lived up here for a long time.
That's right. Yeah.
It's probably the idea came trying to get a drum kit onto a flight for Shetland in the mainland.
Well, I think, and that way where it's like it's not a drum kit. It doesn't sound like a drum kit really, but it kind of does if you're at a gig and it's mic'd up well. And we were able to, I kind of think we were probably one of the first people to do that and try that live. But then as we continued, we started to realize that really, if you want something to sound like a drum kit, get a drum kit, And it's one of the things that we've Angus Lyon, who produced my new record, he also produced the first Barrow Mountaineers one. We kind of have this thing now where it's like we were so desperate to put that live sound on the record, but actually we should have just used the drum kit. Because now when I listen to it, I'm like, it sounds like Paul Jennings sitting on a small wooden box, leathering it.
Which is actually what he did. Yeah. So following that, you did your first solo album, very interesting people, which is kind of back to your storytelling sort of idea, where you kind of looked at infamous people in history and kind of told the story. Do you want to kind of give me a bit about that?
That was an amazing thing. Really, a lot of thanks goes to Simon Toomere for that, because I was doing a teaching thing and he said, you've done this and you've done, the Barrow Mountaineers have done their second album, File Under Fiction, and what's next for you? And I just went, I don't know. I don't have any money. Don't have any
Eurovision.
Yeah. Now I would look at the opportunity.
TV.
But I really didn't know what to do. And he said, why don't you apply for a mentoring grant from Creative Scotland, which I did. And he and Percy from Hands Up for Trad really, I wrote as much as I could, but they pretty much carried me through that painful process of filling out a Creative Scotland application form. Mm-hmm. Which is something that they do. I think maybe people should know that they do help you. And man, I got the money and I worked with Boo Hewerdine. And Boo's idea, we had an idea of how he was going to teach me and what he was going to teach me, but what we ended up doing was we started writing and we found this theme very quickly with Hedy Lamarr, about the actress and inventor of Bluetooth, Hedy Lamarr. And then I was like, she's like a really interesting person. And then I had this idea, VIP. So when I went back to Boo for the next writing session, we just focused on that, VIP. And I had a bunch of people that I'd researched and we kind of wrote songs about them. And there's like a ridiculous songwriting session we did in Glasgow where we wrote Valentina, What a Shame About George, Man Who Sold New York, Rising Sun, and one other. I can't remember what the other one. We wrote 5 songs for the VIP album, and then we went and had lunch. Mm-hmm. So it turned out that we really hit it off, and he's still my very, very good friend, and he's still my musical mentor. So even though the money ran out many years ago, we're still working together and still writing together. He's got two songs on my new album actually that he co-wrote. Piece of My Heart. He rescued Piece of My Heart from the songwriting dustbin, and we wrote a song called White Collar Criminal together because we love this podcast called Swindled Podcast. So it's about an episode of that we wrote a song. So yeah, he that was an amazing thing, and that kind of ended up being a bit of a turnaround because I think I was close to giving up music around about that point because I just didn't know what next, and I felt pretty lost. So it was good to get a bit of direction, and a lot of fantastic things happened. Like once the album came out, and I went out on tour with Eddie Reader, and because I toured with Eddie, I had enough of an audience down here in England where I am right now that I could go and play folk clubs and small venues on my own, which meant I could actually start working things myself. So it really was, I hear about people wasting money from the Arts Council. You don't hear it that often these days, but used to hear all sorts of stories about that. We wrung every single penny out of that. Like, that was definitely money well spent. Because I'm still riding on that money. Let's call it an investment. That investment that I made, I've paid off, tenfold. So I'm very grateful to that. And I think as well, like, I know I'm slagging off their forms. They are horrible to fill in, but actually they did make me think a bit about what it was I was actually, and I think sometimes there comes a point in your career where you do actually have to go, what am I doing? Who is my audience? Like, what do I do to try and sell myself? And and it's hot, and don't get it, it's still horrible to do it.
I know, but you have to.
But and the thing is as well, I guess, sorry to be so boring, but if you were a normal business, and a normal business, I am a normal business. It's just it's music that I'm selling. But if you were a business, you would be doing it a lot more frequently than most musicians do. It feels a bit icky, but.
No. But I think more and more people in this day and age, and I think hopefully because of courses like at university and that, are beginning to understand that better. And the good old days of the musicians will play for a bottle of whiskey in the corner are gone, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the gig that we did today in Bath is an afternoon gig. It's absolutely brilliant. It's in a pub, but there's a lot of people go there because they know there's always good music there on a Sunday. And one of the lovely things about it is that they pay you a fee, but they also go round the pub with pint pots a couple of times, and they say to people, "You enjoying this? Musicians need to get paid. Put some money in the hat." So you get your flat fee from the bar, but you also get your two.
That's a good idea.
Really, really good idea. So it's actually, for a wee Sunday afternoon, it's quite a lucrative wee afternoon for a duo.
Good. Yeah,
I wouldn't go for a 15-piece band right now.
Yeah. We're going to go for another song, Finlay. You've got a choice. You can either have I've Never Been Wrong or American Promise, American Lies.
Should we do that? Because that's the one that I mentioned earlier when we were talking.
Perfect. Here we go, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Thank you.
Marlboro Reds rolled in his t-shirt sleeve. So the girls took off their coats, decided not to leave. Zeppo bashed and beaten, he held it to the light. Didn't matter who he was, he'd get one of them tonight. Just enough unshaven, tattoos on display. He drank bourbon neat, then he pushed the glass away. As he drew the smoke and his lip curled up in a sneer, washed up in the Highlands like a gaudy souvenir. American Promise, he growled, he shook, he pointed through his karaoke song. Pulled his Tom Waits hat down and muttered, "Sing along." Unimpressed, the girls whispered and he yawned. By the time he finished, they'd put on their coats and gone. American
Well, this is just coincidence here, Finlay, but this comment came in just now.
Oh yeah,
Lucky.
so that.
Lucky a moon guitar. Jimmy was up here 2 nights ago. Rose Room were playing at Mario.
Oh no way! He lives on Arran now, but yeah, I've got quite a long relationship with Jimmy. I've had his guitar since like 2001 or 2002. I had this Gibson guitar that was just an absolute nightmare. Probably quite a good guitar, but not the right one for me. And Jimmy fixed it for ages, and eventually he said, "I've got an idea. You can either just give me the Gibson and I'll give you this guitar, or give me 200 quid and the Gibson and I'll give you this guitar." And that's and I just went, yes, because he was like, "I am never fixing this guitar for you again." And since then, and that guitar I'm playing there is really nice. It's a custom one, and he made 5 25th anniversary specials, and there was just enough wood left to make a 6th. So that is the 6th of 5. But it's not really, the 25th anniversary special had lovely things like the Glasgow crest on it. Mine's got a moon on the front, but it's also got a moon on the back for back of the moon. So it's the back of the moon, 25th anniversary special.
And I think Innes Thompson for Fairyhill worked with Jimmy for a long time.
That's right. Innes was involved in the building of that, and I actually remember being in the shop. In fact, I met him in the pub because at one point he lived near me, and Innes said, "How's that guitar getting on?" And I said, "Oh man, this is a few years in," and he. This was like my 3rd or 4th because it was my 3rd one because the first one he gave me, he didn't like the fact that it had a transfer on the headstock, and I was doing lots of gigs, so he did another upgrade, and then this is the 3rd upgrade, this one that I've got right now. But Innes was saying to me, that was a really heavy top we put on it. It was basically the flying across the Atlantic top that it went on it, like a really big lump of Alaskan spruce. So it's quite a big, heavy guitar, but I reckon it took 2 years of like playing the thing in sessions and stuff for it to eventually wake up. It was for a while it was a wee bit closed, but gave it a sound thrashing for 2 years and it soon burst into life. But yeah, Innes put the top on it, I think.
Maybe that's what I need, Davey. I need a sound thrashing for 2 years, and then I'll burst into life.
Yeah. Down in the Ben Nevis bar in Glasgow. That's what happened to that poor guitar. Yeah.
So that song, American Promise, American Lies, is off your new album.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Which was released
1st of October.
1st of October. So we're quite close to it. There's what's the kind of the outline of this? Is there a theme to this album, or is it just is what it is?
It's the first album I've done that doesn't have a theme.
That's a great.
It has an interesting story though, which is that it's really it's a duo album, but it's only got my name on it. It's actually me and Angus Lyon, who you might know is an accordion player and piano player, plays with Blazing Fiddles and produces and records the Blazing Fiddles albums. And Angus called me up at the end of the first lockdown and said, "Would you be up for coming down to the studio and just playing a few songs and using the studio as a toy rather than as a let's be under lots of pressure and make a record?" Mm-hmm. Which is the usual situation you are in the studio. You know, as you guys know, that the days of going to the studio for a month or for 3 weeks are. I mean, I never knew them, but there were. It's when you go to the studio, you do not mess around and you do not spend a long time there because there just isn't the money. So this was like, let's go down and do that. It's Angus's studio. Let's go and have a play. And the first day we recorded a bunch of songs, and by the end of the second day we had 8 songs. Mm. And we went, I think we've got a record here. And it was Angus and I in the same room, sitting opposite each other, playing. So the piano that you hear is live. The voice and the guitar are live. It's just the two of us in the room together. We had another day then, and we said, let's finish it. So by the end, we had 15 songs. and then we released the album. I think it's got 12 tracks on it, something like that. The second session we recorded 8 songs anyway, and just live. So that was pretty epic. And also we co-wrote a song, "It Is What It Is," which is the title of the album, and that's the first time I've ever co-written a song that way.
So that's Gran's House Studios, and
Gran's House Studios, yeah.
And I remember when Gran lived there before.
No way.
Because I've known Angus as long as I've known you. Angus was in short trousers as well when I knew him.
Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing.
What's it with you in short trousers?
I grew up about 5 miles away from Angus's house, and
oh, really?
Yeah. I actually, Angus likes to tell people, I showed Angus how to play chords on the accordion when he was little, and he's done awfully well for himself, and I got left behind again. But I also remember taking him to see Braveheart, because his parents were farmers, and they were very, very busy, and Braveheart came out and he wanted to go and see it, so he couldn't drive at that age, and so I took him to see Braveheart. So that's how I was going to say, I should not mention short trousers with Angus, but before he had size 15 feet or whatever it is there. But it's a wonderful bit down there at Lamington, and looking straight across onto the Clyde there. And
if you go through my Instagram feed and go back a couple of months, you'll find photographs of. I bought a canoe during lockdown, and we paddled down the river from from Abington Services on the M74 to the Grant's House Studio, which was very exciting. I
used to fish that whole stretch of water when I was a youngster. I used to go down on my bike and fly fish for troops.
There were a couple of folk out with the rods and stuff, and it's funny because I've not done that much river paddling since I was a teenager. But the dynamic between canoeist and fisherman has changed dramatically. It was a very friendly hello down the river. It was really nice. It was great, and we saw an osprey fishing in the river just above the studio, which I thought was really exciting. Yeah, it was great, absolutely beautiful.
That's brilliant. But where did you used to paddle on the Spey?
Yeah, we would go. I've done the Spey from Canusie to Spey Bay, and then I've done various sections lots of times. But that's the amount I've done. I believe
that would be all the salmon fishermen paying big bucks, right enough, and then you go piling through the middle in a canoe,
waving.
Different kind of hand signal.
Yeah, it's a really different vibe now because they've started. Everybody is a river user. We're all river users, so you're not to offend other river users. So Simon is a river user and I am a river user, and I think that whoever came up with that idea was a very, very good idea. Yeah,
I bet some of the old gillies don't see it that way.
Aye, but I mean the joke is they don't care. The old gillies don't care. It's the guys with the. It's these think that that because they've paid £400 they should get. They should get an uninterrupted day's fishing, and you're like, well, it doesn't really work like that, It's a river, it's sort of moving, and of course, the big joke in the River Spey, which I really like, is it was the estates that paid to have the River Spey made a navigable waterway, so that they could cut down their forests and float them down to Spey Bay. So the River Spey is a navigable waterway, like a canal. So they literally can do nothing about it. And it was the estates that set that up themselves, so it's kind of like, oh well.
We'll take your money.
Yeah.
I can't believe this time's going so fast tonight, guys. We're way by we're usually finishing time, but I'm quite happy. Les Finley's in a big hurry.
Everybody else here's gone to bed.
Do you think we can will we be able to catch another song on, David, before we go? I think we'll be good.
I want to put a song on from your Glasgow album.
Oh yeah,
that you forgot about. It's your version of Hamish Imlach's Cod Liver Oil and the Orange Juice. It's a song I've loved for many a year, and your version is fantastic. Can you just tell us a bit about the Glasgow album and how it came about?
that was Boo Hewerdine and I again. I was at Loo Festival in Cornwall, and I was very, very hungover, and I had this grand idea for making my follow-up to VIP, and Boo said, "I don't think you should do that at all." I was like, "We'll get a band in and drums, and like we'll do, we're going to make this big record." And he was like, "No." He said, "Your first record, that showed everybody that you could write songs. This record, all we need to do is show the world that you can play guitar and sing. And you can do it without anything. So that basically, if someone says, I wonder, we're going to book this guy for a gig, I wonder if he can actually play guitar and sing. Well, here it is." But then he said, "Why don't we make this album all about Glasgow?" Because I would have been, the idea was that I'd have been in Glasgow at that point for 20 years. I think by the time it came out, I'd been in Glasgow for 21 years. But anyway, so that was the plan, and we made it in 3 days in a studio near Boo's house down in Norfolk, and it's just me and the guitar, singing. Pretty much all of it's sung live, but that version of Cod Liver Oil is live. In fact, that is take 3 that went on the record. I remember that quite.
Well, this version is with yourself, Gillian, and somebody else on keys.
Oh, that's with Gillian and Donna. Yeah, so I made this trio to play a gig at Celtic Connections. I just had this great idea of like Gillian and Donna are really good at backing vocals. So I had this idea that and Donna's a great keyboard player, and obviously Gillian's a great fiddle player. And I was like, with the 3 of us together, we'll make a sound that's much greater than the sum of its parts,
Yeah.
So that was the idea behind this, and then we made a couple of wee videos actually, but yeah, it's a great song, and I was lucky enough to see Hamish Imlach once, and it was very, very good. He was amazing, absolutely amazing, and hilarious. Something to aim for.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's hear this one. Cod Liver Oil and Orange Juice.
To the east there, come a hard man. Oh, all the weepy Blackton. Glory, hallelujah. Cod Liver Oil and the orange juice. Went into a pub and he covered paralytic. Oh, VP inside it. What a hell of a mixture. Cod Liver Oil and the orange juice. Does this bus go to the dentist in Bali? Oh, I'm looking for a lumber. Glory, hallelujah. Cod Liver Oil and the orange juice. Dancing, he made it. Oh, flew to the Gorbals. Glory, hallelujah. Cod Liver Oil and the orange juice. Well, now, Mary, are you dancing? Oh, no, it's just the way I'm standing. Glory, hallelujah. Cod Liver Oil and the orange juice. Well, new median 1 in a million. Oh, so's your chances. Glory, hallelujah. Cod Liver Oil and the orange juice. Got Peter Sancho's. You're hell of a funny. Cod Liver Oil and the orange juice. Out to the back, close down into the dunny. Oh, it wasn't for the first time. Glory, hallelujah. say the clungy. Oh, I buggered off sharpish. Glory, hallelujah. Cod liver oil and the orange juice. New Haiti matey, she's looking for her hard man. Oh, he's joined the foreign legion. Sahara under a camel. Cod liver oil and the orange juice. New Haiti matey, she's had a little baby. Oh, feathers in the army. Glory, hallelujah. Cod liver oil and the orange juice. Cod liver oil and the orange juice. Cod liver oil and the orange juice.
Yeah, fantastic.
I haven't seen that for a long time. It's good. It's
Really good.
Brilliant video.
Magic.
I remember like I remember filming it, and yeah, like we just that's the sound is the sound of us in the room. Aye, God, it was really good. And Donald Ewan just walked round and round and round us with the camera. And in fact, Terry from Shetland, Terry that I've forgotten his surname. Terry did the sound, and you can just see him at the start going. He's behind a breakfast bar, and he goes. In a blurred out.
Brilliant. So you said to us earlier that you've got a gig on this Thursday online.
Yeah, live to your living room. So it's Meg and I are doing live to your living room. So there's tickets for that. It's like a proper fancy live stream show with good sound and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be good. And then we're doing the Glad Cafe on the 12th. If anyone's in Birmingham, we're going to be there on Tuesday. And if there's anyone in Wigan or surrounding area, we'll be there on Saturday. So, and then I think towards the end of the year, the only other things I've got is Aviemore Folk Festival on the 7th. And then Celtic Connections.
Fantastic.
I'm coming down for Celtic Connections this year too for Chris Duke's Shetland night, so I'm really looking forward to it. Really magic. Looking forward to that. And Aviemore Folk Festival looks brilliant as well. What a great idea. It's a great lineup.
Yeah, it's the Costa del Folk people who usually go to the Heat, but instead they've gone to Aviemore.
So they've gone to Costa del Cold.
Yeah, Costa del Cold, Costa del Spey. It's kind of it seemed kind of strange thinking about it. And I was like, well, actually, in the winter time, if the weather's all right, it's price stunning, eh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's it.
With that view up to the Cairngorms and stuff, I think a lot of people might get a wee surprise,
I think they'll get a lot of people. I think they'll get a lot of people wanting that to repeat when they see it happens. To be honest,
really... I think the only thing that's a bit odd about it is at the moment, I think if you want to go, you have to buy the whole package with the accommodation and all that. Which obviously, if you live in Inverness, you're probably going a bit like, well. But I suspect that maybe closer to the date they might do a local.
Yeah.
But I don't quote me on that. Similar to what you did with Chris and Christina, I would like to think that that's what they'll do, but who knows?
Yeah.
So we won't make a big thing of it and say it's an exclusive to Touch.
Yeah. Don't do that. I'll get sacked.
So you went from Costa del Folk to Spain.
Yes, Spain. Yeah.
It's been great having you tonight.
Well, thanks so much. It was fantastic. Really enjoyed it.
So good.
your unique kind of outlook on kind of writing songs and performance is brilliant, and it's been a great laugh as well.
Oh, thank you.
There's so many people messaging and saying they've learnt so much tonight, and I was like, good.
Thank you.
And that includes me about where to put a guitar capo occasionally.
Only for that song.
There you go. Finlay, it's been great. We've put a link on our Facebook to that gig, so anyone's wanting to find our Facebook page, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future, Finlay.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Please, but tell folk to buy the new record and the new EP. That would be fantastic, Will.
And while you're at it, vote for Finlay as a nominee this year's Trad Awards.
Yep.
Thank you.
Brilliant, yeah.
Vote once.
Brilliant. All the best.
I was talking about that earlier as well, and I was laughing.
All the best, mate. See you.
You take care. Thanks, Finlay, man. Cheers. What a guy. Amazing.
We may have overrun by 20 minutes, but for Finlay, it's been fantastic.
It's been worth it tonight. It's been great. We overrun a bit with Katrina as well earlier on. And listen, if it was rubbish we were putting out, we'd worry, but it's not. It's quality.
It's quality.
Pure dead quality. It's been brilliant. Katrina and Finlay tonight. Really enjoyed that. Brilliant show. And remember to get your votes in for Trad Awards for whoever you're voting for. Vote for people, lots of people, including us.
Oh yeah, we're on it, aren't we? Yeah.
We're on it. What are we, Trad Music in the Media or something?
Yeah. Something
brilliant.
Like that. The link's in our comments, so click it. You vote. The voting ends next Sunday, 14th. So
right, yeah, okay, right. So we'll see folk before that, man.
I think it'll probably close late on Sunday, so we might get away with it.
Yeah, okay.
Might get away with it.
Right, listen, brilliant. Thanks very much, folks. We've kept you late tonight, and Davey needs his beauty sleep. So
I do. Look at me.
Yeah, you're looking a bit.
Ali, don't say anything.
Yeah. Listen, thanks very much to the audience out there for listening tonight and sharing it all about us. It's been a great night. Thanks to all our channels that we've been able to go on, Music for Scotland, Tunes in the House, and it's great to be working with all you guys. So thanks very much, and thank you, Alistair. Look at that.
There you go.
Nice one. Okay, take care, you folks out there. We'll see you. We'll see you. Ali, do you want me to kill time just so you get something up? No. Right, okay, right, Davey. Take care. Everybody out there, stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you next week when we also have more guests for you. We just keep them coming.
We've got them into next year. It's great.
Yeah, it's brilliant. See you soon, folks. Take care.
All the best, folks. Bye for now.